what is a living trust and what are the 4 major benefits?
This is such an exciting topic, and I am re-signing my own estate plans tomorrow. We want to talk about the plan you need and how this comes together. We're going to get into the living trust, which is the number one trust we want to recommend for our clients. Everybody needs to know this.
Living trust is a document you sign. It's in a binder with a bunch of other pieces and parts, what we'll get to, but it's the backbone of what's called an estate plan. What's going to happen to you and your assets when you die? Living trust does not get filed with the feds. It doesn't get filed with the state. You don't have to record it at the county. It's very private. It's very internal.
We're going to get into that today on why this is different from a will. Should I just do a will, Matt? Do I have to do a trust? We're going to answer that question. You're going to see the benefits of why you should have a living trust. But this is not just for the billionaires. Every American should have a trust.
Yes.
And when we go through the reasons why, you're going to realize this. When we get to death, I think one of the things a lot of people think about is, well, I have life insurance. Okay, good. And how much are you paying for that life insurance every month, every year of your life until you die? And life insurance is important. And you've decided to buy that because you know you're going to die and you want to take care of your family. But what about all the other assets you have in your life that you haven't planned for or thought about or created any document to say what's going to happen to them? That's where the living trust is. And I'm telling you, it's like 1/100th of the cost of life insurance over your lifetime. It's not that expensive. We're talking $2,000 to get this cranked out with lawyers. We even have discounts going on right now in our law firm. So this is very affordable to get done. I don't want you to think that this is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And a lot of lawyers will charge $5,000 plus for this, but you can get it done affordably. We want to make it accessible to everyone because this is going to benefit everyone. Everyone needs to have this. The number one benefit to having living a trust is no court or probate. It is private. See, when you die and you leave a will, your heirs have to take that will and go to court. It's on public record. They have to give notice to anyone that wants to make a claim on your estate. This is all public. Everyone gets to see your assets if they want, and it can be contested. But if you have a trust, you pass away, your family's not going to court. You've appointed a trustee who takes over the assets and is going to follow all of your wishes. And we're going to get into that and how it works and all the benefits and the cool things you can do. But from a foundational standpoint is it's private and it's also going to cost you less money. Because how expensive is it to go to court later in life with your family trying to figure out what the hell you wanted with a simple will that didn't get into all the details?
Now, the second benefit is a very broad benefit, and we're going to give you some examples here. And it's called control from the grave.
I want you to think about your estate plan as an opportunity to plan your legacy. How is all this work that I've put in over my life, the assets I've accumulated, maybe the business or real estate I've done, the money I've set aside, whatever it is, how is that legacy going to get passed on to my kids in the next generation? How are they going to be better because of all this hard work that I have done? And if you don't make a plan for it, you're not intentional about it, we've seen it. Even if your kids think they know what you want, they end up fighting over it if you do not create a plan for how this legacy is going to transfer on. But let me get to just like the practical stuff.
Okay.
Because you talked about how money can ruin people. What if you have a child or an heir that you want to give some of your estate to and they have a drug or alcohol addiction? Do you think some money's going to help them? But maybe you have a provision in your estate plan that says they don't receive any inheritance until they resolve that issue. That's the carrot, right?
Yeah.
They've got to go to rehab. And we have a standard clause on that. And that's very common. That happens. I have clients that have estates that this has happened. They've had to use this and it matters. Minors is really important. Just in terms of the money and the finances for this is we want to hold that money in trust. If I have a trust that says, hey, I pass away and I have a kid that's 15 years old, let's say at the time, one, we need to determine who the guardian is. We'll come back to that. But all that money that would otherwise be theirs when they turn 18, if I didn't plan for that and have provisions in my trust about how that gets distributed over time, you've got a train wreck coming. Not only is your 15-year-old had to deal with you not being in their life, they've got a windfall of money coming at 18. And how many of us would have been ready for that? For those of you that have minor children, this is even more important for you because this trust protects them. It doesn't let the money come and harm them. And I love the 25, 30, 35 age. You could do whatever works in your family. Maybe you've got older kids already. You feel good about them getting inheritance. And that's good for you. And that's why I say, that's why this living trust is so important for you. Everyone doesn't just take the default state plan because it doesn't work for everybody.
And number 3 I like is the business continuation plan. This is a chance in your estate plan to go, here's how I want the business to live on. It's going to go to some of the employees. It's going to go to kids. I want to create a board of directors when I die. I want to leave the business to this kid, but I'm going to leave the real estate to this kid.
Another benefit is creditor protection. So we're generally going to add what's called a creditor protection clause or a credit shelter clause in the trust. See, if I just had a will or no will and I pass away and my kid's going to get $100,000 from my estate, and let's say that they have a credit card judgment against them for $30,000. Well, guess what? That $100K off the table, 30 grand is going to pay that creditor, and then your kid's going to get their 70 grand inheritance from you. If I have this this passing through instead in a trust with a creditor protection clause, what'll happen is that 100K is going to sit there and the trustee is going to be like, nope, not distributing this until that creditor goes away because I'm not going to cut a check to 30 grand to Visa to cover this, judgment that the child has. So there's protections in there to protect the estate from being wasted by creditors if your children or other heirs may have it.
Another one that I think is important to mention is the personal property. 60% of Americans have a household pet. Who's going to raise that pet? Are you going to leave money to a guardian of the pet? Clients have guns, pianos, wedding rings, art, cars, collectibles, cryptocurrency with keys somewhere. There's a lot of things out there that if you don't leave in an organized way could be fought over, ruin relationships. Money does weird things. Number 3, and some of you that are young may not think this is a big benefit, but for your parents and grandparents, it's a big one. And that is incapacity, the inability to manage their own finances later on in life. That's a big worry for a lot of grandparents. They're like, who's going to take care of my stuff? Who's going to pay my bills? And who's a signer on my checkbook? And because they're worried that one minute they could fall and who's going to take care of them financially. The living trust has that provision, has that trustee that'll step in, collect Social Security, collect retirement money, pay bills, manage rental properties. As you get older, believe it or not, that's going to be a bigger deal. And so benefit number 3 is this life. Why is it called a living trust? Is even while you're alive, the trust can be taken care of you.
The living trust is the primary document. This is the main character, so to speak. The main character energy is your living trust. But in the estate plan, we do have a supporting cast. Wow. And we still do a will.
Did you just come up with that on the fly?
I do, yeah.
That was very good.
There's some other documents that go with this, and some of these can matter during your lifetime. If you are incapacitated, or you need someone to start making financial decisions for you. If you have an elderly parent, many people have already had to deal with this. Working with an elderly parent who's needed help over their finances, who's had to go to a hospital or a nursing home, and they've asked for these healthcare directives and these healthcare powers of attorneys, so they know who has authority to make decisions here. And think about this for yourself too, right? Yeah. Like, we will need these items someday. And so this is part of it and part of the package you're going to get.
And that's number 4, because they really did interrelate with each other. And so the 4th main benefit is you're going to have an overall plan. And this package of documents that the living trust is the backbone of is called the estate plan. And I like what Matt said early on here is that you really should have a budget of $2,500, no more than that, or maybe $3,000. And for those of you that are out shopping, do not get caught up in this perceived value issue. Well, you're worth $10 million. Your estate plan is going to be a $10,000 project. No, they're just value billing. I'm sorry. Some estate planning attorneys out there are going to go, you have no idea all the work I have to do. Yeah, we could spend 10 hours at the table getting super creative. Yeah, then it's going to cost that much. But I don't think it's necessary for 95% of the American public. And so be careful when you're out there shopping and don't get taken advantage of, and amend your trust. If some of the things we've said are outside the box for you, it's okay. You can amend it. You don't have to scrap the whole thing.
And I think that's one of the really important parts of a trust. A lot of people get hung up on, well, I don't want to get my estate plan done because I'm not exactly sure what I want. Remember, there is an estate plan in place for you. It's what the state that you live in has decided is going to happen to your assets when you die. That is the plan. Trust me, that thing ain't perfect. It's better to get a plan in place, think through it, put some thought into it, and get it done and get it signed. If a month later you've been simmering on it, you're like, I really don't want to do it that way. 1-page amendment, pretty simple. 6 months later, a year later, we have lots of clients that will amend stuff here and there, and sometimes family situations change, certain heirs or assets may change that require an amendment. That should be happening, but don't feel like you have to get it all right and all figured out to get started. I think that's frankly an excuse a lot of you have put into place to not do your estate plan.
You mean they don't want to talk about their mortality and they might die?
That's not their favorite thing.
No, it's